Hey everyone, welcome back. I cannot believe it's already 2023. In this video, we are doing a deep dive into how much money I made as a psychic in 2022. So if you are new here, welcome. My name is Lauren. I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm a coach. I like to teach people how to use their psychic abilities. I have a lot of courses on it, and because of that, I'm out there teaching people how to develop their psychic businesses and how to price themselves and figure out what to charge people and how to do readings and all of that good stuff. And a lot of the reason why I made the original video in this series and why I'm making this video is because I just never saw anyone else talking about it. And I felt like I could really use that information. And I think there's a lot of people out there that want to become professional psychics, but they just don't know what it's like. They don't understand what expectations to set. So this video is not at all to brag about how much money I made. It's more to help you all set realistic expectations. It's to help provide you information and advice, especially if you're doing this yourself. So I hope that for those of you who are professional psychics, want to be, that this is a great, helpful video for you. Even if you're not, this might be fun to watch if you're just curious about what I do and how much money that makes. Now, this is actually the second video that I've created about kind of the money side of what I do. So the first one I actually made in 2021, but it was how much money I'd made for my whole entire psychic business from the start to 2021. So if you are curious about kind of that initial phase of growing, definitely check out that video. Basically, I've decided I want to make this a yearly thing. At the top of every year, I'm going to cover the last year so you can see how I've grown and how I've transitioned with all the different platforms and social media that I use to market myself. And really, I think if I would have had the information that I'm going to give in this video, also in my last video, I think I would have lowered my expectations so much more around how quickly I needed to make money or how quickly I could make money. I think a lot of psychics end up giving up really early on because they're not seeing such fast, immediate revenue. And so I hope that with this, you can feel empowered to kind of stick with it, keep going, and not give up. So I really hope this video inspires those of you who are psychics out there, that you also learn from my mistakes and that you feel comfortable charging for your services and you move into a lifestyle that you want to have. You can do this work from anywhere, you can live anywhere, you can set your own hours. And I think that is one of the most beautiful parts of this job. Now, really quickly, I did want to finish up 2021 because when I made that video, I stopped halfway through the year. It's basically because I got the idea for the video halfway through the year and I was super excited. But I wanted to wrap that up in case there were those of you who watched it and wanted to know how that year ended up turning out, just to get us, finished into 2022. Now, my full total for what I made in 2021 was actually $11,000.57, which was actually well over my estimate for that year. I think right after that video, I actually started making way more money. So that was a really huge jump between 2020 and 2021, whereas 2020, I only made $2,600. So if you're curious on more of those numbers, definitely check out that last video. I will put it in a card. And now we get into 2022. This was last year. My main goal, financially in 2022, was to basically move completely and fully over to my psychic job. For those of you who are new to me, I started in film, actually. I ran a film production company with my husband. It was going really great for a really long time, and then COVID hit, and I kind of took it as a sign to move over to my psychic business, which I love doing a lot more. And so my goal was really to just really put my film business to the side, let them do whatever they wanted with it so I can fully move over into my psychic business. That was my goal for the year. Another secondary goal that I had was to just not pay attention to my analytics too much. 2021, I was an analytic Nazi. I was looking at it all the time. I would let it get to me emotionally. I would take everything so personally. I was reading into things way too much, and it was just like a big stress. And so 2022, I was like, I'm not going to look at it. Like, obviously I still looked at it here and there, but like, I'm not going to put so much weight behind it because it was really just demotivating me. So I decided I want to kind of create things that I want to create. And I feel like for the most part, I did that. I feel like there were a lot of videos that I made that kind of felt rushed. And we'll talk about that later. I basically kind of decreased the amount of videos that I was making so that each video felt better, and that definitely affected things. But first, let me talk about how I marketed myself, because that's a huge part of understanding why I made the money that I did. So I'm going to go through all of the marketing platforms that I had in 2022. I talked again in the last video about how I mostly market myself through social media. Some psychics don't like to do that. They're very in person. I kind of spoke to advice for that. However, a lot of what I do, because I am a millennial, is just online. So Facebook, I actually got off of my personal Facebook this year, and therefore I kind of stopped using Facebook as much. Basically, anything I posted to Instagram would go over to Facebook. So I have Facebook, but it's barely advertising me. I personally believe that unless you put money behind ads, nobody sees your stuff on Facebook. I do have a Facebook psychic development group though, and I think a lot of people did stay in touch and saw me through that group. I also marketed myself through Instagram. I do no like paid ads at all. I just put up posts as regularly as I can. Obviously, YouTube is the big one, and I'm a huge advocate for YouTube if you like making videos, because I don't have to pay to get my videos in front of you. How the algorithm works is that if a lot of people like it, it's gonna keep recommending it. So it's just this big like upwards curve of viewership. As you get more people's eyes, you start to get more and more views. And so it is my marketing tactic without having put any money behind it. YouTube markets me all by itself without like me doing anything other than like obviously making all the videos. I also have a monthly newsletter that goes out. I do think that's helpful for the people that are not on social media. I would often find people like book me right after they got a newsletter, or they would go watch videos that I linked to. So I do think the newsletter was helpful. I also have blog posts. I don't really think anyone looks at those, but I was told it was good for SEO, so I've been making them. I also advertise myself sort of through Udemy. Udemy is where I put up my video courses, and they kind of advertise me as well. They push me out to people. It's not purely just like search related. They will recommend it to people that they think will buy it. So in a way, there is a little bit of marketing there on Udemy. And then in 2022, I was also on Gig Salad. Gig Salad is more like of a local event planning site. So anybody who's looking for a psychic for an event would book me through there. And they take a chunk, but basically, again, they're also marketing me for myself. I don't have to do anything. It's basically when someone searches in my area, they're going to give them a list of people, of psychics that can be available for that event. And I did become a top performer on Gig Salad, so that boosted me even more. It just made me kind of at the top of the search results, which was kind of nice. And yeah, so that was kind of the ways that I was marketing myself before. However, I did add some new things in 2022, and that was my podcast and my Patreon. Now, my podcast, I hardly have any like viewer or listeners, so I think that's doing very minimally right now. However, it's interesting how far reaching it is, and I wonder if that's because there's just not a whole lot of psychic development podcasts like out there, and so I wonder if, you know, if I create more content there, if it actually would boost me even further as like a marketing. So a lot of people found me actually through my podcast first, which was surprising because I only have like maybe 8 consistent viewers or listeners on average at the current moment. And then again, I added Patreon. Patreon is like a membership. So I actually got off YouTube memberships. Originally, you could buy a YouTube membership from me and it would like come with extra perks. But the platform was just not that good. Essentially, YouTube memberships were just a tab on my page, and like it's under the community part of it. And basically, if you signed up maybe months and months into it and you wanted to watch a video that was like a year old from me, there was no organization or folders or anything. You would literally have to just like scroll just to like get to that old video. So I thought the platform was really disorganized. They also took like a huge percent of the membership fees. And so I had heard everyone talking about Patreon. One of the creators that I support is on Patreon, and I saw the platform from like a viewer's standpoint, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much nicer, it's organized. And so I decided to switch over to Patreon. Also, they took a lot less of the members' money, or the patrons' money. So more of that was actually going to the creator. So I switched my memberships over there. I think it's been super great. I think that everyone has gotten a lot of extra content from me over there. And basically it's like a membership, like Netflix. I get to decide the tiers. I get to decide like what you get at each tier, how much those tiers cost. It's totally customizable. And this isn't just like for psychics, like literally anybody that creates anything can put up a Patreon account, even if you're not even giving anything away and you're just like, hey, I want you to come support my podcast. Sign up for any random level at the price point that you can every month. You can do that. So I'm super, super happy with Patreon. If you're out there deciding between YouTube and Patreon, I recommend Patreon more. So I did make that switch to Patreon. I do think that that ended up making me more money because they didn't take as much as YouTube did. Now, like I said before, I ended up cutting the amount of live nights that I did. There was a lot of reasons for this. One was because I was burnout, and I felt like my live nights, I was just not doing the best that I could showing up and giving people readings. I think at the beginning of the year, I was doing it once a week, and basically by the end of the year, I was doing it once a month. And a second part of this was because I also noticed in my analytics, it wasn't doing a whole lot for my channel. It was actually hurting my channel, if anything. However, it was really hard to make that decision because this is where a lot of us like develop a community here on my channel, and I've gotten to know so many of you so well. So I miss those a lot, but I don't miss the burnout and the not feeling like I'm showing up and being, you know, the best psychic that I can be. Now, during the month of September, I also took a whole month off of not like uploading any videos, which I was really scared about because, well, I wasn't really scared about it because I didn't care too much about analytics this last year. But everyone says that it kind of tanks your YouTube channel. However, I didn't see that happen at all. And I was kind of grumpy. I was like, are you kidding me? I could be uploading like less videos and my numbers are still going to be the same. I was kind of grumpy about that. But so September, I didn't upload any videos. I was basically taking time to film my masterclass course, which you guys have heard me talk about a few times. But when I came back, I actually decided to do a video once every other week instead of once every week. And that was because I was like burnt out, and to make a video every single week, it's a lot. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of work. And I realized there's no reason that I need to be doing these once a week. I can be doing them once every other week. It gives me more time to film. It gives me more time to edit. It makes the whole video better. And I'm not like scrambling to come up with like 20 bajillion video ideas that I'm really not like in love with because I feel like I have to fill that need. You know what I mean? So a lot of these decisions were from a more mental health perspective and just trying not to get into burnout so often. And I'm so glad I did it for that reason. But I just wanted to mention it because you'd think that it would actually impact my, my money and my analytics for the year, but it surprisingly didn't. So now this is the part of the video where I want to jump into my YouTube analytics for those of you who are YouTube nuts. If you're not interested in this, go ahead and skip to the next chapter. But I'm going to pull it up on my phone and kind of go over it with you all. I cannot do it on my phone. So I am looking at 2022 as like a whole. And so we have, you can kind of see this chart down here. And this blue line is how many views I have. First, we'll talk about views. And all of these like blocks of numbers are basically like how many uploads I made. So you can see how many more uploads I did towards the beginning of the year. You can also see in September, there's a little bit of a dip, but not much. which is kind of surprising again, and again, less uploads. So I did have overall 25% less than what I did in 2021. I think that is purely the chunk of September through December. I think that is like a quarter of the year. And then we get into watch time, which is like another kind of important thing. It's like how many hours of content people watch. I mean, now that I'm monetized, I don't care too much about this kind of stuff anymore, but I'll show it to you anyway. It's interesting how towards the end of December, it just like shot up. But then subscriber wise, what is this huge peak? Oh, this huge peak in February was actually when I collabed with Liv's Light. Fantastic, love Liv. She is another pick a card reader here on YouTube. We did a video together. And I will say, like, collabs definitely help like peak how many people see you. However, I did 2 other collabs in 2022 and they did not like spike up like Liv's did. Actually, towards the end, I did a collab video with the Lenormand Reader, and there was a little bit of a spike down there, but not very much, not as much as I did with Liv, which was kind of interesting. So I got 1.6 subscribers in all of 2022. I've definitely had more of a higher subscriber like rate in previous years, but I think that's again because I did a lot more live videos, and I think unfortunately, the subtraction of the live videos really kind of it's been putting my videos out a little bit less. However, I'm not, like, as soon as I got monetized, I feel like I don't care what my subscribers are anymore. I don't need 10 million, 5 million. I mean, obviously it would be cool and fantastic, but like, I feel like I'm content with where I am. Any new subscriber is just another great, awesome thing. As far as revenue, it's interesting. I made $1,000 or $1,007 in that year. And again, it's like 30% less than the previous year. And again, I think I'm feeling like I'm not like for sure on this, but I feel like that all comes down to removing the lives and removing as many videos. And I think it's mostly the lives because that's where people would donate to me more through Super Chat, and that is factored into this. Knowing what I cut, and basically we're only seeing like a 25 to 30% reduction, I'm like totally fine and happy with that because I feel like it is worth my mental health to have that 30% reduction in money and views, because I feel like I can make content a lot better than I could at the beginning of the year. Making it for my Patreon members, making it for YouTube, not as often, but just putting a lot more time and effort into it. So you'd think that there would be a bigger drop here, and I'm excited to say that there's not. So each one, oh, I forgot to, each one of these spikes on the revenue side of things, that's like a live night. And so the reason why there's such a huge spike is a lot of people would basically donate. So if you do like live videos and if you do like to read live, I do think that it can help boost your views, boost your numbers. However, I feel like doing the mix of like normal videos and live videos, it just hasn't worked for me. Not saying it can't for you. Let me know if there's anything else you would normally like to see in my analytics for the next time around. I feel like I'm kind of covering views, subscribers, and money because I feel like that's the 3 things that most people are interested about when they're talking about YouTube. Now, I also want to say, if you just happen to be a YouTuber and you are doing a lot of psychic videos, I do know that there's a lot of you out there. Do know that I am an anomaly because I don't do, like, my main thing is not psychic readings. My main thing is actually like how-to videos in the eyes of YouTube. You know, that's the majority of my content. I think that if you were purely dedicating your channel to giving people readings, I actually think you would grow a lot faster than I have. And I think I've been weird with YouTube because I've been like a mix. I've been a mix of how-to videos and reading videos for people. And I think it hasn't understood where to like put me because of that. And so I'm kind of experimenting a little bit by like reducing my like live nights and seeing if it places me a little bit more in the how-to section. However, I do want to do more pick a cards, so we'll see how that affects it. All right, now the next thing I wanted to cover is kind of the average number of readings. And this is purely for context. You know, I talked in the previous video, like I might have only gotten a reading once every couple of months. And I think it's good to kind of keep all of this in perspective. And again, don't like compare yourself to me at all, because we are all in different spots, all in different journeys. We're all going to make a different type of money. I'm probably charging different prices, but I hope it just helps for context. I would say towards the beginning of this year, 2022, I probably had about like 2 to 3 readings a week on average. Again, I think the driest spells I've had over the year probably lasted like 2 weeks, which is amazing that I could go that short of a time without like having any like readings. But 2 to 3 is kind of where I would have started. And then towards the end of the year, I would say a good week, I would have had 5 to 6 readings. Some weeks I had way more. Some weeks I had a ton. Like literally, I think a couple weeks ago, I actually had 5 in one day. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to figure out a way that I can, like, if it hits a certain limit, I can say, okay, after 3 in a day, I'm done. But my website Wix doesn't quite allow that yet. I've put in a request, but now as people found me, as I kept marketing myself, kind of around fall time, I was just overwhelmed with readings. It was like I was struggling to like film the videos that I needed to film because people kept booking readings with me, which is completely fantastic. Like, I'm not complaining. But there is a point that you get to where if you are starting to get overwhelmed and burn out by readings, I think it's very important to raise your prices. And kind of take a step back. By raising your prices, you're going to have a little bit less people like come through, but then that allows you more breathing space and you get more money for it. So I changed my prices in 2021. I try to only do it once a year. So in October of 2022, like mid-October, Halloween season is when I upped my prices. And I only upped it by $10 for like my 30-minute sessions, but I had that like reflected. So it was $10 in a 30-minute session, double that for an hour, triple it for an hour and a half, if that makes sense. So it really wasn't a huge increase if you were looking at the 30-minute sessions, but if you're looking at like the hour sessions, it's technically $30 more that you would pay for that. So I did up my prices and it was perfect because I had a little bit less people like contact me. But when they did, I was just as set as I was before, if not better, actually. I was making more money and doing less readings. And that is super helpful to me and super important because I need to be able to take care of myself before I can give to other people. And it's really easy to jump on the burnout train and just like break your back over it and not make any money on it. So I think it was a really good time for me to do that. And I think it helped me grow my business even more after October. Now let's finally get into the 2022 income. I wanted to cover all of that first because I do think it's important for context. Because somebody could be making the same amount as me and have different platforms, or they could be having less readings or more readings. It's really it's a complex balance. So again, don't compare yourself, but hopefully this is helpful to kind of understand how I got to where I got. So for 2022, I made $15,454. And I would say, comparing it to 2021 of $11,000, I would say that that's, knowing that I cut a lot of stuff, that's not surprising. Like, I kind of would have expected a little bit more, but I think it's pretty good considering that I cut basically a lot of my marketing in a way. So if you average that out, it's actually about $1,200 a month. However, I wouldn't say that was super accurate because I had a lot of really low months towards the beginning of 2022. And then I actually had really, really high months towards the end of 2022. So saying it as an average, I don't feel like it's completely accurate. but that's just what it is if you're curious. Now I want to do it a little bit differently in this video and specifically just break it down based on all of the different revenue sources that I have, just so you can see where it all comes from. I thought about doing that in the previous video, but I was like, oh my gosh, that would add so much time to it. But I will do this in every video moving forward. So the readings actually took up 11,135 of that total income. Events, so that's like in-person events that I went to, specifically Gig Salad, I made $1,686. Udemy, which is my video courses, selling my video courses. I only have 2 courses out right now, and I think one is like, I want to say $25 and the other one is like $40 maybe. So not very high prices. That was $771 this year. They also take a big chunk, which is kind of a bummer, but Amazon, big winner, $57. Those are like my affiliate links that I put in the videos. I think this year it's a lot lower because I try not to promote things like heavily. I feel like I tried to do a little bit less of that. And then in YouTube, this included both the ad revenue. So every time you watch a video, there's an ad on my video and I get paid when you watch that ad. Also, this is the tips that come through Super Chat on my live nights. So that was 1,293. And actually, like, comparing that to the events, that's actually a pretty big number. I think if I was super serious about YouTube, I could probably bring that number up a lot. Like, I could be super crazy about my lives. I think I really could do that. But again, mental health was a priority this year. Now, Patreon only started in April of 2022, so it wasn't like making money before that. And I made total on Patreon $589. And that one I actually think is a really good resource for me money-wise. I just think, unfortunately, it takes a while to grow because you have to get people off of one platform and sign up on another platform. And I've had a really hard time doing that. A lot of people don't even know that my Patreon exists. So I need to market that a little bit more. But that's what Patreon made. And all of those total up to that total of $15,000, about $500. And just a quick note on my expenses. I have like no expenses with my business. I spend about $30 a month on my website. And it's a lot because I also have the booking system set up so people can go on my website, choose a time, choose a date, and then like book me. That costs a little bit extra to add onto your website. So that's like about $30 a month. And what's great about that is before it pays me like from a reading, it'll just take the $30 it needs. So I don't even have to worry about like paying that bill. It just comes out of the readings, or like my balance basically every single month. I do have to pay for the occasional like gas to get to events, and I kind of include that in the event prices. I did have to buy business cards this year, and then I just had to renew my domain, my psychiclauren.com. That was it. I would say that's probably no more than like $200. I don't know, maybe the gas probably ran that up, but I don't quite keep track of it. Or I do, but I haven't done it for this video. Now, kind of thinking about my overall goal for 2022, I would say I actually achieved that. $15,000 is not enough to live on, especially in Denver. However, I never made that much at a yearly basis with my film production company, which I'm kind of embarrassed to say. My husband always made more than me over there, so it kind of sustained us both. But I have had the most successful financial year that I've ever had. Now again, I haven't solely relied on this. I still took a few like jobs with my film production company, but I was able to be very choosy, and I basically only signed up for photography jobs, which I really enjoy doing. So I had a couple of those throughout the year just to provide extra income. And then also on the side, like I have started like a real estate business sort of thing with my family, and I do make money off of that. So that's kind of like an on the side thing that has actually helped me also with this year. But like, I just wanted to illustrate, like, I'm not living only off of my psychic business. I have other income. I think that $15,000, if that's all I had, that would not be nearly enough to just pay rent and do the things that I need to do. However, because I cut back, because I said no to the old job that I didn't want to be in anymore, and because I got into this real estate, kind of business that really doesn't require a whole lot from me. It's very minimal work for lots of money. And because of that, I have been able to fully transition into my psychic business, I would say about mid-year 2022. And so I'm extremely proud of myself for doing that. So my biggest tip for this year, for those of you out there, is to work less and make more. That was such a huge motivation for me going into this year. I feel like up until 2021, I was very much into hustle culture, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to work my ass off. I have to work 10 jobs so that I can make 10 times the amount of money. But it wasn't until I started cutting back and cutting back and cutting back and allowing more space and taking care of myself that I started making more money. And I would not have believed you if you would have told me that, because it seems so counterintuitive. It seems like opposite. Like if you work less, you should make less money. But I can't tell you how important it is that if you make space and time for yourself and take care of yourself and give yourself rest, you're able to show up at your job, your place of work, more motivated, more energized, and you can be more efficient and economical with your time and more productive and more inspired. And that was the big lesson that I've learned for 2022. And I see it as such a direct result. I see it as I started off that year really rocky. I ended it so strong financially, mental health wise. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but 2022 was very black and white, very hard, very dark at the beginning, and then just beautiful, amazing awesomeness at the end. Two totally different years. It went from one end of the spectrum to the other. I think overall the point that I'm trying to make is that I cut back a lot this last year, because I was finally at a point where I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I made just as much money, if not more. And I came out way happier, way more fulfilled, way more in alignment with what I wanted to do because of that. I wasn't taking jobs from, my film job that I didn't enjoy anymore. I was able to manifest this real estate thing that's going on in my life. And I was able to raise my prices. I was able to cut more off my plate. I was able to avoid burnout. To me, that is a huge success, huge success. And although the number is only 15,000 for my psychic business, in total with all of my businesses, it was a lot more. And all of it, I worked way less on. And so I think it has a ripple effect in lots of areas of your life. When you cut back in one area, you're able to show up in others. So truly, if you take anything from me this video, if you're a psychic out there, really try to focus on taking on less. And I get it if you're starting out and you need to do the bare minimum to feed yourself. I was at that place for a really, really long time. But I think there comes a point where you can finally decide, okay, I need to put more time and more energy into this business, or else I literally won't have the time to do that. Then I think that that's the moment that you need to start cutting back on the other businesses or other hustles or whatever else you got going on in your life, and make more space for it. Because I think it's very scary for us to cut back and think that it's actually going to make us more money. So I hope that's helpful in some sort of way. I hope that this video was helpful. I will do it again in 2024, and we'll talk about 2023 and everything that's happened in 2023. Future plans for this year, I'm going to definitely have a new masterclass course come out, probably at a much higher price than my other courses. So we'll see how that affects things. And I'm not going to change a whole lot other than that. So we'll see how things grow in this year. So let me know if this video was helpful in any way. If you're out there, if you're doing the hustle and the grind as well, if you have any other questions about how I did something in 2022. And on your way out, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and come on over to the Patreon. We have more content. You guys can ask me questions every single month. So if you're really serious about growing your psychic business, you can take my new masterclass course where we talk in depth about growing your psychic business, and you can jump on over to Patreon, ask me questions, join in our community, and really get inspired by the other people there, by me, and hopefully get all of your questions answered. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.